So the next presentation again is on some concrete tools that we have to protect biodiversity from Rajiv Bhartari, and this work is aimed at removing an invasive plant in one protected area. Too many presentations?
Yes.
I think the work done by Nick has also showed how even working on the concrete conservation, we still need to compile information to develop indicators, because we need to measure success and effectiveness of what we do. So I think this is a perfect example to how we need to balance compilation of information with concrete action. Thank you, Rajiv.
Good afternoon. It's a great honor to be here and to be able to share this result. I am from the Indian Forest Service, and I am going to share my experience while I was posted as director in Corbett Tiger Reserve. And for those of you who have visited tiger reserves or Indian protected areas, you would be familiar with what a menace Lantana is to our biodiversity. And according to our director of the Wildlife Institute of India, he used to say that if you have to see what Lantana can do to nature, you have to go to Corbett. So when my Professor C.R. Babu, is Professor Emeritus, he is 84-year-old, and so when he came up with a research project, I did not believe him that this project was going to have any result, but he was my professor and I have great regard for him, so I had to humor him. And so for 1 year we supported him, and whatever he said was done. But when he told me the results after 1 year of his work, then having been a botany student and with college training in ecology, I realized the value of the work, and then we expanded it and made it integral part of the management. And so by merging both biology and management technique, we devised this technique. So Lantana is a menace, Lantana camara, in 60 countries in 3 continents. And in many countries there is legislation to prohibit planting of Lantana. But like as was mentioned in the Kruger's presentation area, Lantana is also grown as an ornamental in our presidential house. And so there's a lack of understanding about the biology, there is complexity, and there's constant hybridization. So there are 5 species which are found in India, but 4 of them are not a problem. It's only Lantana camara which is the real menace. Now the problem is that, again to repeat that quote from Charles Darwin, Lantana is highly adaptable. It came as an ornamental into the Indian subcontinent, and it profusely produces shoot suckers. So the moment you cut any portion of the shoot, you risk producing another plant. And so if physical uprooting, it leads to multiplication. Lantana seeds have long dormancy period, and if you try to remove the whole plant, it leads to upturning of soil, and light sensitive seeds, they again have profuse germination. So you have even more Lantana than you have before. And chopping and burning, they stimulate the subterranean meristematic tissue and lead to coppicing. And I believe in Kruger, herbicides are used, but for us we find it difficult to use it in forest ecosystems, and there is no effective biological control for Lantana. My presentation is brief, and I'm just going to point to the actual technique what we have done. So what happens is that this is a Lantana clump, and 2 men, with the help of a pole, they try to push the bush on one side, and the third person, it has to provide a cut on the main tap root, 3 or 4 centimeters below the ground. And so once the cut is provided, then the whole plant is turned upward. And then this plant is left to dry, and it can be burned or put to some other use. Normally it is assembled in some mass. So here you can see that meristematic, subterranean meristematic zone. So on the left side you see how coppicing is occurring, and on the right side you see that once the cut has been done, then that meristem has been removed. And the bottom picture shows the upturned plants. So now what is so unique about this technique? The whole plant has to be, killed intact. Because if there is chopping or etc., then the portion of stem can lead to formation of adventitious roots and new plants. And the cut has to be provided 3-4 centimeters below the ground. And it has to be put upside down because it's a massive work. And somebody has to ascertain that the meristem has come out of the soil. Because if it has not come out of the soil, then again the meristem will lead to new plants. And reversing of polarity is also required to prevent the coppicing from the shoot. The advantage of this method is that it has minimal disturbance of soil around the plant. And we don't want to disturb the soil because it will bring new seeds, light sensitive seeds to the surface. It does not allow sprouting of branches from uprooted clumps because the polarity has been reversed and the whole shoot has been dried. And it does not permit coppicing from the subterranean meristem. So this basic technique has been applied for nearly 10 square kilometer area in Corbett Tiger Reserve. The Corbett is located in foothills of Himalayas. And when we are trying to develop a large program for removal of Lantana, we have to address the watershed and begin from the higher reaches. And another aspect is that the whole life cycle of the Lantana has to be addressed. So previous attempts were failure because they were only focused on the vegetative side of Lantana. But what happens is that bulbul birds, they feed on Lantana seeds, and they have some selected favorite perching trees, and then their droppings contain the seeds, and saplings are produced. It becomes almost like a small nursery, and when there is monsoon rain, then these saplings flow with water, and Lantana spreads according to the spread of the water. So Lantana has to be addressed both at the clumps but also at perching trees where new plants are being produced. And I think the most important lesson is that the effort is not about eradication of Lantana, but it's about ecological restoration. Because until you try to restore the area ecologically, Lantana will again come back. So we plant native palatable grasses, legumes, bamboo, and some tree species. And this has to be, this planting effort has to, and removal of new Lantana sapling has to be continued for 3-4 years to continually recover an area. And surveillance is very crucial. So the beauty of this technique is it is very simple, it requires minimal human effort and does not cause much disturbance to the soil. And by reversing the orientation of Lantana, the polarity is reversed, and it checks the main threat of production of shoot suckers, and perching trees are addressed for removal of Lantana saplings. And but the most important thing is that in the plots that we had initially taken over a 5-year period, they became excellent habitat for both elephant and tiger. So there is ecological restoration. And this technique is now being applied in several states in India and also in Nepal and Bhutan. But let me add a word of caution. It's not as if Lantana has been removed completely in Corbett, and it is also not that it has been removed in any other part in India. And the major problem is that even today, half of the managers they try to keep convincing that Lantana provides very good cover for tiger, and therefore there is no need to remove Lantana. So I think the question that we were raising about awareness in community, it's not just that this awareness and sensitization has to come in the community, it has to come within the park managers also. And this is the worthy technique because it's very simple, it's very cost effective compared to other methods. The problem was that many other efforts also included the removal of the entire root system, but since the plant is incapable of producing root suckers, so we need not bother about the root. And as a manager, I found it very good because I was able to personally verify that whether the meristem has been taken out or not. And as you can see, soon after this technique was developed, we realized that we need to develop an entirely new language. Because as foresters, while we are conversant about trees and afforestation, our knowledge of grasses and their planting is very less. And so we had to immediately set up several grass nurseries for this, because easy availability of propagules is very necessary. And because it's a national park, so these grasses were collected from the national park area only. And on the right top side, you can see one of the grass nursery. And then the right bottom side shows Professor C.R. Babu in blue pullover, and he's addressing all park managers, warden, deputy director, etc. in the heart of the national park. So we carried out a series of half a dozen training workshops for staff of Tiger Reserve. And I asked a forest guard that what is the difference, after this training. So he said that earlier when we used to walk, we would never bother about Lantana, we were indifferent to it. But now when we walk, we feel like plucking and removing the plant and then proceeding. And then Professor Babu also produced this manual. And so I would like to hear more from others and to their experiences about Lantana eradication. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. It's interesting to see how different regions of the world develop capacity for struggling against these threats, and also raising the awareness within the park, among the park staff, is a major challenge everywhere, not only in your national park. I think one limit in many areas is the access to resources for developing and for applying methods. So